Before buying a plot in India, keep these rules in mind. Only then will you be able to live in peace. And you will not regret it later either. It is evening. A family steps out of the car. In front of them is an open field. And the broker, spreading his hands wide, says, "Sir, this is the future. Buy it now. And in 2 years, it will double." Somewhere in the distance there is a half-built road. An electric pole in one corner. And in the brochure, you can see a wide road, park, school, market, metro. Everything. There is a dream in the family's eyes. Their own plot, their own house, their own piece of land. But this is exactly where the biggest fear is hidden. What if this land does not turn out to be what it was shown to be? What if the title is not clear? What if the land use turns out to be wrong? What if the registration gets done, but later it turns out that even the access road was not legal? In India, buying a plot is not just an investment, it is also a test of patience, paperwork, and verification. And the one who rushes through this test is the one who regrets it the most later. In India, land has always been considered a safe and solid investment. The reason is also clear. Compared to a flat, its maintenance cost is much lower, the pressure of depreciation is less, and in the right location, the possibility of appreciation over the long term is considered good. With infrastructure development, land values change rapidly. For example, around Juar Airport and the Yamuna Expressway corridor, sharp changes in property values continue to be discussed even in 2026. And recent reporting also suggested the possibility of a further rise in plotted values by 2027. But this same market excitement can also become a trap. Because where the story of future growth is sold the loudest, that is often where paperwork and legality are ignored the most. The first rule of buying a plot is not location, but legality. Many people think that first they will finalize the area and later they will look at the papers. But the truth is exactly the opposite. The first thing you need to understand is what exactly it is that you are buying. Is it a residential plot, agricultural land, an industrial parcel, or just a promise of a future township? The official FAQs of the Real Estate Act, that is RERA, clearly say that development of land into plots also falls within the definition of a real estate project. That means if a promoter is selling an organized plotting project, then in many cases RERA registration may be relevant. Yes, smaller projects, such as those with less than 500 square meters of land area or up to 8 units, may be exempt in some situations. So instead of becoming happy just by hearing the words RERA approved, the buyer should personally search for the project on the state RERA portal. The second big rule is to check the seller's identity and sale authority. Who owns the land is not decided just by a visiting card or an office board. If the seller is an individual, then the identity, PAN, Aadhaar, and ownership documents must match. If the land is under joint ownership, then the consent of all co-owners is necessary. If the seller is a company, then one should check the board resolution, authorized signatory, and the company's legal authority. If the sale is being done through a power of attorney, then it should be valid, registered, and transaction specific. These are among the most common ways plot fraud happens. Either the seller is not the real owner, or the seller enters into the deal with incomplete or weak authority. Registration verifies execution at the office, but it does not end the buyer's responsibility of due diligence. The third and most important rule is checking the title chain. Do not be satisfied just by looking at the current sale deed. You have to understand the chain of ownership, whose name the land was in earlier, how it was transferred, whether it came through inheritance, gift, partition, or court order. The Registration Act 1908 gives the legal framework for property identification and registration, but the buyer must also see that the property description in the document is clear and that the land can be identified through the government map, survey, 𝐼़, or the relevant record. The law says that a document of immovable property can be accepted for registration only when the property can be identified with sufficient clarity. That is why vague boundaries, mismatched area, or unclear 𝐼़ details become the root of disputes later on. The fourth rule is to check the encumbrance certificate, that is EC. The name may sound technical, but its meaning is very practical. Does this property carry any registered loan, charge, mortgage, or other encumbrance? Official e-registration portals in states like Haryana provide the facility for EC application and status checking and make property records, mutation, and registration details available for public access. The buyer should not look at the EC just to complete the paperwork, but to understand whether the land is coming with any financial baggage. But one more caution is necessary here. EC usually shows registered transactions. If there is a dispute based on an unregistered arrangement or a possession-level conflict, then that may exist separately as well. So EC is necessary, but not sufficient by itself. The fifth rule is to check mutation, Jamabandi, record of rights, and local revenue records. The Department of Land Resources of the Government of India clearly says that the purpose of DILRMP is to make land records transparent, reduce disputes, and stop fraudulent transactions. Under this framework, access to online land records, registration integration, and revenue data is being increased. Haryana's official Jamabandi portal also allows registration, mutation, and Jamabandi information to be viewed online. The buyer should see whether the name, 𝐼़, 𝐾WAT, area, and category in the sale deed and revenue record match or not. Many times, the registered deed gets done, but mutation is not updated or the record still remains in the old owner's name. Such gaps later create trouble in tax, possession, and litigation. The sixth rule is never to pay advance without understanding land use and zoning. The master plan, zonal plan, and local development authority decide whether the land is residential, commercial, industrial, green belt, institutional, or falls in some restricted use zone. In its official planning material, DDA clearly states that zonal development plans show actual and proposed use zones. And merely because a proposed use is shown in a zone, the owner does not automatically get any right. Similarly, YEIDA's official master plan also sees the area under an industrial, residential, commercial, and integrated urban development framework. So even if the brochure says future residential, it is still necessary to separately check the authority records, master plan map, notified land use, and development permissions. The seventh rule is never treat agricultural land and plotted residential land as the same thing. Many people buy cheap land and later discover that it is agricultural land on which building a house or doing plotting is not legally straightforward. In many states, the rules for purchase of agricultural land are different and land use conversion comes under separate approval. The central government's Department of Land Resources also recognizes that land management falls under the jurisdiction of the states. So while buying a plot, the buyer should clearly find out what the current category of the land is, whether conversion has happened or not, and whether the intended use is legally permissible or not. Blind trust in promises like it will become NA tomorrow or CLU has already been applied for is one of the most dangerous mistakes. The eighth rule is especially important for NRIs and overseas buyers. According to Reserve Bank guidance, an NRI or PIO can buy residential and commercial immovable property in India, but there are restrictions on buying agricultural land, plantation property, or farmhouse property, except in some specific legal situations or approvals. This means that if an NRI buyer is entering into a deal in India in the name of a cheap farmland plot, then double caution is needed. Many times, project marketers try to sell such land to NRIs in the name of future township or farmhouse living, even when it does not comply with FEMA rules. So the buyer's residency status is also a part of transaction legality. The ninth rule is to cross-check RERA, layout approval, and promoter compliance. If you are buying a plot in a township, gated plotted development, or developer-led scheme, then check the project status on the state RERA portal. According to the official FAQs, project registration should normally be decided within 30 days, and the promoter also has to comply with obligations such as maintaining a project-specific bank account. This gives the buyer a structured source to see project details, approvals, timeline, and filings. But if the seller says there is no need for RERA, it is all a private colony, then the buyer should become even more alert. Especially in projects where development works, roads, amenities, and common areas are being promised. Paper trail and regulatory traceability become very important. The 10th rule is physical verification. Do not finalize the deal just by looking at an online map, brochure, drone video, or the model table at the sales office. Go to the plot yourself. Go during the day. Go in the evening. Go after rain. And talk to local people. Has the road actually been built, or is it only a promise? Is the electricity line a legal connection, or just a temporary one? Will water come from a bore well, authority supply, or tanker? Is the approach road to the plot registered, or is it only a dirt track? Is there any drainage issue nearby, any flood-prone belt, any high-tension line, graveyard, drain, disputed boundary, or acquisition risk? The biggest deception in buying land is that people read the documents, but do not read the ground reality. And in real estate, ground reality often proves more powerful than paper reality. The 11th rule is to understand the difference between future connectivity and current habitability. The example of the Yamuna Expressway and Juar Belt shows that infrastructure triggers can change prices. Recent reporting talked about the impact of airport opening, metro extensions, expressway links, and the industrial ecosystem on demand and prices in the corridor. But a smart buyer is the one who does not only listen to the appreciation story, but also sees at what stage development actually is. Is the area still only a speculative investment zone, or is there a realistic chance of actual habitability in 3 to 5 years? Is there a visible roadmap for schools, hospitals, public transport, market, police access, drainage, and legal utility infrastructure? Buying cheap land is easy. Buying usable land is difficult. The 12th rule is tax dues, acquisition notices, and litigation search. It is necessary to check whether property tax receipts, development charges, betterment charges, or local dues are pending. If it is an authority area, then allotment conditions, transfer charges, and dues may be separate. If it is a village revenue area, then one should gather information about khazra, gardawari, mutation objections, stay orders, or any pending civil dispute. In Haryana's official registration and land record systems, services related to stay orders, mutation status, jamabandi, and deeds are available, which can help the buyer identify basic red flags. Remember, land is sometimes not just land. It also comes carrying old loans, family disputes, inheritance conflicts, and complications in government records. The 13th rule is measurement and boundary verification. The registry may say 200 square yards, but the site turns out to be 185, and the corner gets cut in the map. This is a very common problem.
That is why it is wise to get the dimensions verified by a surveyor or a competent technical person. The Registration Act speaks of a property description being sufficiently identifiable, and at the practical level, the buyer should make sure that the deed, site plan, 𝐟𝐨𝐥𝐥𝐸 map, and physical site all match each other. Also check road width, frontage, depth, easement rights, common passage, drain alignment, and neighboring possession. The real dispute in land often turns out to be less about ownership and more about measurement and access. The 14th rule is to treat registration not as the end, but as a part of the process. Proper registration of the sale deed is very important. And under the Registration Act, the legal structure for registration, presentation, and property description of immovable property documents is laid down. Official sites like the Delhi Revenue Department provide information about stamp duty, registration process, and document flow, while state portals also provide details about deed registration and fees. But even after registration, the buyer has to pay attention to mutation follow-up, tax record update, utility transfer, possession memo, site handover, and custody of the original documents. Many people feel relaxed after the registry is done and later discover that the revenue record, tax entry, or possession record was never updated at all. The 15th and perhaps the biggest rule is, while buying a plot, keep more patience than greed. The game of land is a game of slow money, not fast excitement. If someone says, give the token today, tomorrow the rate will go up, then the buyer should become even more cautious. A right plot is not one that is only cheap. A right plot is one whose title is clear, seller is genuine, land use is suitable, approach is legal, records match, registration process is clean, and future utility is realistic. Land records in India are being digitized, systems are being built to reduce disputes, and frameworks like RERA are giving buyer protection. But the final caution still has to be taken by the buyer. If it takes one extra week while buying a plot, there is no real loss, but one wrong signature can trap years of earnings. So if you truly want to live in peace, then remember 3 things before buying a plot. What is visible is not always the truth. What is written is not always enough. And what is legal is what ultimately lasts. Investment in land gives peace only when paper, possession, and planning, all 3 are clear. Otherwise, that same plot which you bought thinking it was your future security can turn into years-long tension. The real wisdom is in reading the truth of the land before building the house of your dreams on it. Only then will the investment remain safe, and only then will there be no room for regret.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible. But in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.